What's up everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Geet, for those of you guys that don't know me, which is probably most of you since this channel is super brand new. I'm a software engineer based out of the New York City metro area, and I currently work as a software engineer in big tech and previously worked as a software engineer in a large financial institution. So this video is going to be about the interview process for software engineer positions, as well as tips and tricks that might help you out during your interview, before, during, and after. I've done a bunch of interviews so far early in my career, whether they were in college for internship positions or post-grad for full-time employment. So I thought that I would make this video to kind of help out either college students looking for internships, new grads looking for positions, or other full-time employees just looking for a change. But before we get into that, I'm just going to ask if you can please like this video, subscribe to my channel, and turn on notifications. It really helps with the YouTube algorithm to get my content out in front of people who might find it useful, as well as a little bit of extra motivation to keep myself going and keep on making videos for this channel. Also, feel free to drop a comment on other software engineering topics you'd like me to make videos on or that you might find helpful. Now that we've gotten all that out of the way, let's go ahead and get into the video. So I'm going to break it down into 4 parts that I've kind of compartmentalized the interview process into. The first part is getting the interview. The second part is preparing for the interview. The third part is giving the interview. And then the fourth part is what to do after the interview. So let's start with number 1, getting the interview. Now, I think that there's 3 main ways to do this, and I'm going to list these in order of what I think is least effective to most effective. So the first way is just the typical standard online application, where you either go to a career page or you go to some kind of job website, whether that's LinkedIn, Indeed, Monsters, so on and so forth. And you fill out an online application where you give in your resume, you give in your other personal details, and then just cross your fingers and pray to whatever you believe in that you get a response. Now, I feel like this is the least effective option, only because of the sheer number of applications that are handed in this way. Your resume ends up somewhere in the middle of a pile of other applications that can be hundreds or even thousands of applications deep. And you're going to be very lucky if your resume even gets picked up, let alone seen at all by any recruiter or any hiring manager. The second method of getting an interview is an employee referral. Now, I find this to be kind of the middle option. Previously, this used to be a pretty viable option where if you got an employee referral, you would pretty quickly hear back from a recruiter or a hiring manager about moving forward in the process. However, I feel that these days, this mode of trying to get a job has been kind of abused by employees just mass referring candidates, and that clogging up the referral pipeline and then backing everything up. Kind of the same like the online applications, but not on that kind of scale. It's still not a bad option, but I would say it varies on a company basis. The larger the company, the more employees there are to refer other candidates, the more that referral pipeline gets backed up. However, in smaller companies, this may still be a really good option and something that I suggest you doing either way. Now, the third and best option, in my opinion, is either reaching out to a recruiter or a hiring manager. I feel like this method directly gets you into the pipeline for a certain position or positions that you're looking to interview for, and kind of catapults you to the front of the line. Now, how do you get in front of a recruiter or a potential hiring manager? I think the first option for this is to just grow your network out as much as you can. If you're in college, go to all the networking events that you can that are usually hosted by career services. Go ahead and get your face in front of recruiters and hiring managers that are visiting your school, and that helps you build relationships that you can take advantage of either in college for internships or even in the future for full-time positions when the time comes. The more you interact with people, the more your connections grow, and the more your network grows, the more it'll be beneficial for you later on in your career. Trust me. And then the second way to get in front of recruiters or hiring managers is LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a really powerful tool to reach out and make connections, and I highly recommend using it. Definitely leverage the optional message that you get when you can send a connection request to someone. Those 300 characters should not be wasted. Look for recruiters and hiring managers that have the little hiring badge on their profile picture on LinkedIn. This shows that they are actively hiring for positions, and if your background seems to be a match, they will definitely consider you very quickly to fill a spot that they're looking for. Try to form some connection with them in that optional connection message. So maybe this hiring manager, recruiter worked at a company that you previously worked at or currently worked at. Maybe they're from the college that you went to and you have that kind of alumni connection with them. Or maybe they have mutual connections with you that you can speak about in your connection request message. Basically, leverage everything that you can to form a solid basis for a professional relationship going forward with this recruiter or hiring manager on LinkedIn, and then you should be set going from there. And then finally, if you can't really find something in common with this person, you can always just send a cold request on LinkedIn with that optional message and be completely honest, stating that you're looking for a new position or you're looking for a change and that you want to speak to them about possible opportunities that they may have at the company that they work for. So the 3 ways that I think you can get an interview from my experience is 1, the online application, which I feel is the least effective. 2, an employee referral, which I feel is a middle option, not too bad, but not good either when you end up asking for referrals at larger companies. And then 3, reaching out directly to a hiring manager or a recruiter who's actively looking to fill positions, which I believe is the best option to go for. Moving on to step 2 of the interview process, preparing for the interview. Now, most interviews for software engineering positions include 3 main aspects: the coding round, the system design round, and the behavioral round. Let's first talk about the coding round. Now, there's no way around this. You're basically going to have to grind out a lot of coding problems. Now, the tried and true method for this is every coder's favorite website, which is LeetCode. Over there, you can go and practice hundreds of problems of varying difficulty and various data structures and algorithm topics, and just grind those out until you feel like you have a solid understanding of all these topics and that you can ace these when presented in a technical interview. You can also practice using the tried and true book version of LeetCode, which is Cracking the Coding Interview, or other books that you may find on Amazon. I'm going to go ahead and link the Blind 75 in the description. This is just a post on Team Blind, which is a forum that's used to discuss a lot of work topics, in which there are 75 curated questions on different data structures and algorithm topics that are commonly seen in interviews. Now, this post is from 2018, so it might be a bit outdated, but I still think it's a solid resource to get started, so go ahead and check that out. So my approach to LeetCode for when I've had to gear up for interviews is as follows. I always start with the easy problems and work my way up. This gives me a solid foundation as well as a bit of self-esteem and confidence that I can solve problems before moving on to harder ones. Read the questions carefully and look for hints and giveaways of certain data structures and algorithms that they want you to use. Typically, the format of questions, whether they're easy, medium, or hard, follow a certain pattern, and they tend to give away what kind of data structure or algorithm you should be using to solve the problem. Once you can link the 2 together, it becomes very easy, and as soon as you see a problem, you immediately know what kind of data structure or algorithm you're going to need to solve that question. Once you recognize the patterns in these questions, you can easily solve questions you haven't seen before by recognizing these patterns and using the understanding you have of these questions as a foundation to build on top of. This will really help you solve medium and hard questions, as well as questions in interviews that you have not seen on LeetCode, but follow the same kind of pattern in their wording. Now, the second part of this interview process is system design. Now, this is something that I feel like you just have to practice as much as you can. You kind of just have to know what the formula is for solving these problems, talk your way through them in your interview, and use your interviewer's hints and guidance as a path to follow to kind of get the answer that they're looking for. I recommend you check out a lot of different videos that follow this formula if you're solving system design problems. I'll link a bunch in the description. You can also check out online courses such as Grokking the System Interview, as well as a couple of books on Amazon that I'll link below that could help out in this process. Now, the third and final portion of most interviews is the behavioral interview. To tackle this, first I would say have answers to possible questions memorized ahead of the interview. This will really help you avoid blanking out on the spot and having well-formulated answers for these questions. This is how I formulate my answers. I use the STAR method, which stands for situation, task, action, result. So the situation represents the problem on hand. The task represents the goal that you're trying to achieve. The action represents the steps that you took to address the situation that you explained to achieve the goal that you explained as in the task portion. And then the result is the result of the actions that you took. Now, this is a pretty standard way to answer behavioral questions, but what I feel like most people mess up on is leaving one out of these 4 portions out of their answer. Another big thing that people don't consider is that they don't make the answer extremely fine-tuned and specific to themselves. The whole point of this behavioral interview is to highlight yourself and yourself only. It's great to talk about your team or the people around you that help you solve this situation on hand, but you should really only be highlighting yourself. Make sure all aspects in your STAR response highlight you and show the positive growth that you got out of this experience. You want to be hyper-focused on yourself to show your interviewer that you are the best person for the job that you're interviewing for, and that you've used situations in your past to positively affect the way that you will be moving forward, as well as show your growth and experience and everything that you learned from things that you faced in your past. Now, to best be able to do that, I would highly suggest not using fake situations or not coming up with fake answers. This is where having answers to your questions pre-planned in your head comes in really handy. Having fake answers makes it really tough to be authentic in the interview, as well as keep a clean timeline and be very specific to yourself in your answer. When you make things up, you're bound to mess up. So the best thing to do is to just not make them up in the first place. Try your best to make sure you have authentic, genuine answers, and that way you can relate more to them and go more in depth in your detail for them. Step number 3, giving the interview. Now, there are a couple of things I think you can easily focus on for this portion. Make sure you get a good night's sleep the night before the interview. Make sure that you're well fed and hydrated before your interview. Basically, take care of all the biological things you need in order to make sure that you're as successful as you can be while you're giving the interview. You don't want any of these things to kind of come up as an obstacle during the interview itself. Getting to the actual coding and system design interviews, make sure that you read the questions and read them multiple times, even out loud with your interviewer if you have to. Take this opportunity to ask a ton of clarifying questions. For example, what should the input and outputs of your problem be? Are there any restrictions? Are there any possible corner cases? And list some out if you think you come up with some in your head and ask if they're valid or not. So on and so forth. Basically, use this time to get the most clear understanding of the problem that you can have before jumping in and starting to solve for them or work through that process in your brain. This way you have a solid foundation and understanding of the question, and then have the best chance in being able to solve it successfully. Make sure that you're explaining your thought process extremely clearly to your interview while answering these coding and system design questions. This gives your interviewer a real in-depth look into the way that you are going about solving the problem on hand. It also helps the interviewer course correct you if he or she feels that you're heading in the wrong direction. This can be mutually beneficial because the interviewer wants to see you succeed, and of course, as the interviewee, you definitely want to succeed as well. This also helps because a big part of getting a software engineering position is that the interviewer or the team that you're interviewing for really wants to get a good understanding of the way that you think and confirm in their brain that the way that you think and go about solving problems is one that's efficient and works well for the position that you're interviewing for. For the behavioral questions, and I can't stress this enough, take deep breaths. Pause before jumping into an answer for a question. This will ensure that you properly formulate your answer, as well as come up with a well-articulated answer for your interviewer in which you attack all 4 aspects of the STAR method that I mentioned in the preparing for the interview section. If you follow all of these, I'm pretty sure you'll have a great interview experience. and hopefully get the offer at the end. Which brings me to the fourth part of the interview process, after the interview. After the interview, you can go ahead and take the opportunity to send out thank you emails. I think this is something that is more helpful if you are a new grad looking for an internship or a new full-time role post-grad, but it can still be a great add-on if you're a full-time employee just looking to change jobs. It shows interest in your part as well as appreciation for being considered and having the interview take time out of their day in order to interview you. Reach out and stay in contact with your recruiter or hiring manager. This also follows up on showing interest for a position, because the more active you are post-interview, the more it goes to build on your interest in the position itself. And that is a really good green flag for recruiters and hiring managers who are looking to hire for roles and fill them quickly. If you get the position or positions that you have been interviewing for, go ahead and take some time to negotiate. Think about what you want to ask for, and then after that, take some time out to weigh the pros and cons for multiple positions if you've gotten multiple offers, and then the easiest part, go ahead and accept. If unfortunately you don't get the position, go ahead and ask for the recruiter for feedback. Recruiter feedback tends to be vague, and that might just be because of company policy and restrictions that recruiters have in giving feedback back to you as an interviewer. But I think the best thing that you can do is reflect on yourself. Think about portions of the interview where you feel you were weak or may have messed up, and just go ahead and keep on reviewing and practicing those aspects. The more experience you get and the more practice you have, the easier the interview process itself will become, and then in the end that translates to more offers and more success in your interview process as a whole. So that's all I have for you in this video. I hope this video really helps you out for all your future software engineering interviews. And if you're someone with a ton of experience with software engineering interviews, go ahead and drop a comment with any tips or tricks that you've used to ace your interviews and get a ton of offers. Once again, please like this video, subscribe, and turn on notifications for my channel, and leave a comment for other types of videos that you want me to make, and I'll make sure I get those out for you as soon as possible. See you in the next video.